Hi, I'm Bybreen and welcome back to another episode of Soul Stirring Astrology, where I give you my textured take on the world of astrology. Well, I'm kicking off with a North Node series, and I'm inspired because the North Node, as we know, is now in Cancer, South Node is in Capricorn, and Uranus has just moved into Taurus. And the Uranus is about the sudden changes in terms of your day-to-day realities. Now, you see, the North Node really points to uncharted territory. We're very comfortable, we're very conversant with the way that we show up in the world in our South Node, because that's our attributes, our skills, our talents, our ways of being is what we've brought from previous lifetimes. So it's very, very comfortable. But actually, in terms of growth and development, we need to be heading in the direction of our North Node. So I'm dealing firstly with the North Node in Aries, or in the first house, and where you have the North Node that's moving through the first, second or third signs or houses, it's analogous to spring. You know, it's the first quadrant of an astrological chart, and that relates to spring. And where we have spring, which we're on the cusp of, it's new beginnings, it's growth cycles, it's the closure of one cycle, the opening up of another. And we've just had this week the North Node, sorry, not the North Node, last week we had the new moon in Pisces. And the new moon in Pisces, obviously Pisces is the 12th sign and the 12th house. It's the closure of one cycle and the opening up of another. And in this opening up of another, what can you do to tap into your North Node? Because your North Node is what's going to bring you the most growth. Now, where you have a North Node in Aries and or the first house, which means that your South Node is in the 7th house and also in Libra. And so what you've brought from past lifetimes is a sense of being codependent, having codependent relationships whereby you've gained your core identity based on your relationships or your surroundings of other people. They've given you your sense of identity, or you've ceded your power in terms of who it is that you are. And there's been a reliance, so this co-creation of your identity, which may be very comfortable for you, but at the same time it can be very frustrating, because there's a part of you, the North Node is pointing that your greatest growth is actually when you have the courage to step out and build your own identity. By building your own identity, you then bring your whole self into relationships. You've then got something meaningful to contribute. Now, Aries and the first house is really about being pioneering, initiating, having the courage to go for what it is that you want. It's about assertion, it's about action. Now, Chiron has just moved into Aries, and so Chiron's talking about the wounding of identity, and the more that you live within the world of codependent relationships means that you continue to wound your core identity, and then you get to the place, I don't know who I am. How many times have you heard people say, I don't know who I am? Which is, you know, very troubling when one moves into adulthood and hasn't done the exploration, because there's been this fear of letting go. And so with the North Node in Aries and the first house, it's about shattering your fears and insecurities. It's the time to let go of this codependency. It's the time also for you to be relinquishing tit for tat. And the reason being is because you have, if you're somebody that's got the North Node in Aries or in the first house, you might work with or for other people, but there's points of frustration in these relationships. You know, it's employee relationships, it's personal relationships, because you're being constrained or limited in some way. If we look at the world of work, there's bureaucracy that you need to get through that then can stifle your creativity, your sense to assert yourself, your sense of independence. So actually, somebody with the North Node in Aries and in the first house, it's a time really where you need to be breaking free and doing your own thing. So the type of career choices could, for example, you could be an entrepreneur, something that gives you the creativity and the freedom to be your own boss. And that's really important for North Node in Aries or the first house. You've got to be yourself. You've got to take up this sense of leadership. You've got to take up this sense of having courage, developing the courage, and then applying dynamic action. Aries, Mars, first house is all about action. What actions are you going to take? Because in doing so, you can then free and liberate and become the best version of who you are meant to be, supposed to be, has the possibility of being, because you need to step into these uncharted territories. So Will Smith is a really good example of this, because he has his North Node in Aries at 9 degrees. So he's famously said that he said to Jada, you know, it's no longer my responsibility to take care of you in terms of making you feel happy. That's your job. That's your responsibility. My responsibility is for me to make myself happy. And then when we are, you know, we bring our whole happiness to our relationship, and they've spoken publicly in terms of how they've transformed their relationships. And so here's a really clear example of how Will was somebody in this context was people pleasing, you know, pleasing, making sure everybody's taken care of, making sure that everything's okay, there's balance, there's harmony, but in doing so he was denying parts of who he is. So he's gone off and done his thing, Jada's gone off, and you can just see this wonderful evolution as a couple. The other side in terms of him really stepping into his North Node in Aries is that he has confronted his fears, was certainly one of them, and one of them was about swimming in oceans, because you've got sharks in oceans. So it was a great fear of his, and he's recently done a documentary in terms of challenging and overcoming his fear of swimming in oceans and swimming amongst sharks, and you know, so that's captured wonderfully. And he was able to do it, one, because he was doing his personal development around his fears, and he was being coached and mentored around that, and also being coached and mentored in terms of the world of sharks, and actually understanding the vibrational energy of sharks and who he shows up when he's in the home of sharks really enabled him to step into or swim amongst, you know, what appears to be very dangerous waters. Swimming with sharks are, until you know what you're doing. So with those of you who have the North Node in Aries or in the first house, this really is the opportunity for you to grab hold of yourself, become who you are, and you become who you are by being courageous. Give up. You know, your Achilles heel here is that there's this over-reliance that you are expecting other people to be gracious, to treat you equitably, to be fair, to demonstrate justice. And as you know, not everybody shows up in that way, but by doing so, again, this is another example of how you cede your power to other people to make you happy. That's your Achilles heel. You need to give it up and step into your power of having the courage to follow through on your impulses and your instincts and taking the right action that's going to enable you to see how you transform your fears, see how you begin to own yourself, and step into what Jung said, become individuated. So that's it, beautiful people. If you've got any comments or questions, or, you know, just put them in the comment box below. If you would like a personal consultation with me, drop me an email. It's in the About page, and also I'll put it down in the box below, bybreen@googlemail.com. Drop me an email and we'll get that sorted out. Yes, so until then, stay well, start exploring your North Node in Aries, your North Node in the first house. What are you doing to liberate yourself so you can really own your power? Stay well, and I'll see you again on the next episode. Bye.